in New York. Thank you.
Let's give it up for Greg. Armed Madhouse is the book. Please spread the word. What did you say, Greg? Get it and spread it. Get it and spread it.
You also said you are what you suck.
I heard that one. I didn't want to say it, but thank you. For those who have friends who are not able to be here tonight, please let folks know that Greg will be at Borders Bookstore at Columbus Circle tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Borders Bookstore at Columbus Circle tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Also, let's not forget, not only is this a celebration of Armed Madhouse, but we're also going to be raising funds tonight for WBAI. And after Mr. Kennedy speaks, we're going to pass the basket around. We are in the church, aren't we? That's right. Also, the index cards, questions, please fill out the question. Who needs cards? We still need to get some cards that passed around. We're passing cards down there. They're coming around the cards. You're going to pass them to the aisle rows, not to the center. Asking you to please fill out your questions. I'm going to introduce a man I have a great deal of respect for. Been reading your work for the last couple of years. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr., pardon me, his reputation as a resolute defender of the environment stems from a litany of successful legal actions. Mr. Kennedy was named one of Time Magazine's Heroes for the Planet for his success in helping Riverkeeper lead the fight to restore the Hudson River. That's right. Mr. Kennedy serves as Chief Prosecuting Attorney for the Hudson Riverkeeper and President of Waterkeeper Alliance. He is also a clinical professor and supervising attorney at Pace University's School of Law's Environmental Litigation Clinic and is co-host of Ring of Fire on Air America. Earlier in his career, he served as Assistant District Attorney in New York City. His program, Ring of Fire, broadcasts on progressive radio nationwide. Let's give it up for Robert F. Kennedy, Jr.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I had a long travel schedule over the past 2 weeks, and I really wanted to spend time with my kids tonight, which it's usually sacrosanct. But Greg called me and asked me to do this, and he is such an important figure in this country. You know, such an extraordinary American hero. But I wanted to come here, and the other, you know, and Randy Rhodes to be here with her. She is like, these are the exemplars, you know, the paradigms, the models of what journalism and punditry should be about in this country, which is challenging authority and looking into the claims of government officials and being skeptical. And without that kind of integrity in journalism and that kind of energy and that kind of mission, our democracy cannot survive. And that's what I kind of want to talk about tonight. Tonight I was driving down here. I had to go do a talk at late this afternoon, at the New York Public Library on a new book, the reissuance of Barry Goldwater's 1955 classic, The Conscience of a Conservative, which I did the introduction to. The reason I did the introduction to it is because you read this thing and there's nothing in it that resembles the kind of conservatives that they have today. This is not conservatism, what they have. They pretend to be conservatives, but they have torn the conserve out of conservatism. You know, all of the things like free market capitalism, which they hate. You know, they want corporate crony capitalism, and they want capitalism for the poor and socialism for the rich, and you know, and separation of church and state, which was one of the pillars of conservatism. Protection of the Constitution, which Goldwater considered, you know, was absolutely reverential about the Constitution. But these people have destroyed the Constitution. We are now torturing people in this country. We are wiretapping our citizens. We've suspended the 820-year-old right of habeas corpus. We've suspended our protections against search and seizure. And it's the biggest bunch of baloney when they say to us, oh, well, you know, we live in dangerous times. This is right. If you really look at it, and I have friends who died in the World Trade Center attack. My offices were destroyed in that attack. But objectively, we live in one of the safest times in the history of this planet, for Americans. Because when I was a little boy, and we had 15,000 nuclear-tipped warheads in Russia pointing at our country, each one able to destroy an entire city, that was dangerous times. But we didn't wiretap our citizens. We didn't torture people then. We didn't suspend habeas corpus. We didn't try to send people to Guantanamo or do extraordinary renditions to torture people in Syria. During the Civil War, we lost entire cities. 640,000 Americans, not 3,000, 640,000 were killed. It's the equivalent of 6 million people being killed today. And Abraham Lincoln said, when they talked about torturing Southerners or mistreating them, he drafted a document for how we treat prisoners, and it later became the Geneva Convention, because he said, we are not going to do that as Americans. When George Washington was confronted with the British during the Revolutionary War, torturing American prisoners, keeping them on coffin ships right here in New York Harbor where they're dying by the score every day, Washington said, we're not going to do that. If that's what we're going to do, then I'm not going to be part of this conflict. And he passed orders treating prisoners so well that when he captured Trenton, New Jersey, the barracks of Trenton, the Hessians were so astounded by the good treatment that they had received from the Americans that they walked all the way from New Jersey to Western Pennsylvania with no guards. And Dwight Eisenhower during World War II, again said, no matter what the Nazis do, we are not going to torture them. And that's one of the reasons the Nazis gave up, the Germans gave up so quickly to us, because they knew they were going to be treated well by Americans. All of these things are against the conservative traditions that are part of our heritage, and that that Barry Goldwater at his best celebrated. And so I was coming down to do a talk at the New York Public Library about this, and I was trying to think. I had put that time aside driving from White Plains to here to think about what I was going to say. And I turned on Randy Rhodes, and she had the most fantastic show today, and I couldn't turn it off. She was reciting all of these, these ridiculous, absurd things that these journalists, from Chris Matthews, Joe Scarborough, and all of our great stellar journalists were saying when, President Bush declared mission accomplished, and how they were all saying, well, now the Democrats have to apologize because they criticized the war.